They tell you it's the kale. They tell you it's the morning jogs and the expensive supplements. But I'm 105 years old, and I've watched every doctor who gave me health advice pass away before me. Most people are spending their golden years chasing a lie that actually shortens their life. Today, I'm breaking my silence. I'm stripping away the marketing and the myths to show you the one physiological shift that actually stops the clock. If you think you've heard it all, you aren't ready for what comes next. This is the truth about survival. I was born in 1921. That's a date that feels like ancient history to most of you watching this through a screen. To me, it feels like yesterday. I've lived through 20 presidents, 3 major wars, and the invention of almost every piece of technology you currently take for granted. But more importantly, I have outlived my peers. I have outlived the health experts of the 70s who told me to avoid eggs, and the gurus of the 90s who told me to avoid fat. People ask me every single day, Arthur, what is the secret? Is it the Mediterranean diet? Is it some rare root you found in the woods? I always smile, because the truth is so much simpler, yet so much harder for the modern mind to grasp. We are obsessed with the what we eat, what we take, but we have forgotten the how. We have forgotten how to exist in a body that wasn't designed for this frantic, electric world. When I look back at my childhood in the 1920s, life had a different rhythm. It wasn't just that the air was cleaner or the food was organic. Back then, all food was organic. We just called it dinner. The real difference was the absence of the constant, low-grade vibration of anxiety that seems to define your world today. We lived by the sun, not by the notification. We ate when we were hungry, we worked until we were tired, and we sat in silence without feeling the need to fill it with noise. I've watched the human operating system change over a century. You are all running on a high-speed frequency that burns the candle at both ends. You think you are optimizing your health with apps and trackers, but you are actually just measuring how fast you are burning out. Longevity isn't a race to the finish line. It's the art of slowing down the clock before it even starts ticking. Scientists today are finally catching up to what we centenarians have known instinctively for decades. They call it epigenetics, but I call it the internal atmosphere. Every time you worry about a calorie or obsess over a blood pressure reading, you are sending a chemical signal to your mitochondria, the tiny engines of your life. You are telling them that you are under attack. And when the body thinks it's under attack, it stops repairing itself. It shifts from growth mode to survival mode. I stopped living in survival mode when I turned 75. That was the year I realized that I had spent 7 decades worrying about things that never happened. The moment I stopped trying to fix my health was the moment my health actually began to flourish. Your body has a blueprint for 100 years of life, but you keep interrupting the construction crew with your stress. Think of your life as this forest path. Most people are sprinting through it, looking only at the obstacles in their way. They trip over a root, a minor health scare, and they freeze in fear. They spend the rest of the journey looking down at their feet, missing the majesty of the trees and the light filtering through the leaves. I learned early on that the path is long, and the only way to finish it is to stop worrying about the end. I've seen men who were fitness fanatics drop dead in their 60s because their hearts were tight with the effort of perfection. Perfection is the enemy of longevity. A tree that is too rigid will snap in the wind, but the willow bends and lives for centuries. You must learn to be the willow. You must learn that a little bit of bad food enjoyed with a happy heart is better than a superfood eaten in a state of lonely perfection. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca. I keep an old book on my table, and I read the same passages every morning. Not because I forget them, but because I need to be reminded of what matters. In our modern age, we are drowning in information but starving for wisdom. We know the nutritional breakdown of a blueberry, but we don't know how to sit in a chair for 10 minutes without looking at a phone. I drink a glass of water every morning, and I treat it like a ceremony. I feel it hydrate my throat. I feel it wake up my organs. I don't gulp it down while checking the news. This is what the Blue Zone researchers miss. It's not just the water or the wine. It's the intentionality. It's the fact that I am present for every sip. When you are present, time expands. When you are distracted, decades vanish in the blink of an eye. Most people believe that stress is an external force, but I've lived long enough to know it's actually a choice of internal chemistry. We look at image 6 and see smoke, dark, suffocating, and intangible. That is exactly what modern stress is. It isn't a tiger chasing you in the woods. It is a phantom in your mind. Over the last century, I have watched the pacing of the human heart change. In the 1930s, we had plenty to worry about: poverty, dust bowls, and global instability, but we didn't carry it in our pockets. Today, you carry the world's tragedies in your palm 24 hours a day. My secret to 105 isn't that I never felt stress. It's that I refused to give it a home. I learned to blow it away like smoke. I realized that the fight or flight response is a high-octane fuel. If you leave it idling in your system, it eats the engine from the inside out. To live a century, you must become a master of the exhale. Look at these seniors in the park. They aren't training for a marathon or trying to look like models. They are practicing the art of flow. At 105, my movement isn't about strength, it's about lubrication. Your body is like a hinge on an old gate. If you don't move it, the rust takes over, but if you force it too hard, the metal shears. I see so many young people in their 60s destroying their joints because they think health is about intensity. It's not. It's about consistency. I walk every single morning at 6 a.m., not because I want to burn calories, but because I want to tell my nervous system that I am still mobile, still capable, and still exploring. The moment you stop moving is the moment your body decides its job is done. I have kept my body in the loop for over 10 decades by never asking it to do more than it was designed for, but never allowing it to do nothing. Time is the great illusion. We see the gears of the clock in image 8, and we think of it as a countdown. But at my age, I see time as a fabric that can be stretched. Have you ever noticed how a minute of pain feels like an hour, while an hour of joy feels like a minute? Longevity is the practice of living in those stretched minutes. I've reached a point where I can slow my perception down. I don't rush to the phone, I don't rush to the door, and I certainly don't rush to the grave. The medical community talks about telomeres, the caps on our DNA that shorten as we age. They say they are the ultimate clock. But I found that a calm spirit seems to act like a preservative for those caps. When you stop racing against time, time stops racing against you. I've outlived the clocks. Is it possible that the soil in your backyard holds more medicine than the local pharmacy? I spend a great deal of time in my garden, as seen in image 9. There is a profound biological exchange that happens when your bare skin touches the earth. They call it grounding now, but to me, it's just common sense. We are biological beings, not digital ones. When I put my hands in the dirt, I am reconnecting with the microbiome of the planet. I'm 105, and I still have dirt under my fingernails because the garden teaches you the most important lesson of longevity: the seasons. Everything has a time to bloom and a time to go dormant. Human beings are the only creatures that try to bloom all year round. We try to be productive in the winter of our lives, and we wonder why we feel depleted. To live long, you must respect your own winter. You must learn when to pull back and let your soil rest. The soul is healed by being with children. Fyodor Dostoevsky. This brings us to the inner fire, represented by the fireplace in image 10. Your health is not just a matter of biology, it is a matter of warmth. I have seen many people who ate perfectly and exercised daily, but their hearts were cold. They were bitter or lonely or filled with old grudges. That coldness is a toxin that no green juice can flush out. I make it a point to keep my inner hearth lit. I seek out laughter, even if I have to find it in the smallest things. I talk to the birds, I joke with the delivery man, and I keep the embers of curiosity burning. When that fire goes out, when a person loses their why, the body follows suit very quickly. At 105, my why is simply to see what the next sunrise looks like. It's a small fire, but it's enough to keep the house warm. In image 11, we see the modern laboratory, a place where they are trying to code their way into immortality. I find it fascinating, but also a bit tragic. They are looking for the longevity gene, as if it's a switch they can flip. While they stare at DNA strands, they miss the symphony. Longevity is a whole system phenomenon. You cannot isolate one protein or one enzyme and say, "This is the secret. My DNA is likely no different than yours." What is different is the environment I've provided for that DNA to express itself. If you put a master pianist in a room with a broken piano, you'll get bad music. Modern life is a broken piano. It's out of tune, it's noisy, and the keys are sticking. I've spent my life tuning my instrument through silence, through natural light, and through a refusal to accept the expiration dates the world tried to give me. What is the one thing the fastest person in the world can never catch? Look at the city street in image 12. Everyone is in a hurry to get somewhere that doesn't exist. They are rushing toward a future where they will finally be happy, finally be healthy, or finally be retired. But the future is a ghost. I've been in the future for 105 years, and let me tell you, it looks exactly like the present. The only difference is that now, people are more distracted. To live a long life, you must learn to stand still while the world rushes past. I call it the eye of the hurricane technique. If you can find that center of calm, the chaos around you cannot touch your vital organs. Your blood pressure stays level, your cortisol stays low, and your spirit stays intact. Speed kills, not just on the highway, but in the way we live our minutes. We come to this social battery in image 13. This is perhaps the most overlooked supplement in the world. Connection. I don't mean followers or friends on a screen. I mean the biological resonance that happens when you sit across from another human being and share a meal. I've outlived my wife, my siblings, and most of my oldest friends. You might think that would make me lonely, but instead, it made me an expert in connection. I've learned to build new heart links with the younger generations. Isolation is a physical weight. It makes the blood thicker and the heart heavier. I stay young by listening to the dreams of the young. I don't tell them how it used to be unless they ask. I ask them what they see for the future. That keeps me plugged into the grid of life. Image 14 is a portrait of a face like mine, a map of 100 years. People spend thousands of dollars trying to erase these lines. But to me, that's like trying to erase the chapters of a masterpiece. Every wrinkle is a victory. This one is from the Great Depression. This one is from the day my daughter was born. And this one is from a decade of laughter. When you fight aging, you are fighting yourself. And when you fight yourself, you lose energy. I embraced my aging the moment it began. I didn't see it as a decline, but as a refining. Like a piece of driftwood polished by the ocean, the older I get, the more me I become. The stress of trying to look young is a primary cause of looking old. Acceptance is the ultimate facelift. The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. Frank Lloyd Wright. As we look at the figure on the mountain in image 15, we talk about perspective. From 105 years up, the things that people argue about seem like grains of sand. I see people losing sleep over politics, or the stock market, or what their neighbor thinks of them. From my vantage point, those things are invisible. They have no impact on the soul's journey. Longevity requires a high-altitude mindset. You have to be able to zoom out. When a problem arises, I ask myself, will this matter in 50 years? Usually, the answer is no. Since I've already lived through two 50-year cycles, I can tell you with authority, almost nothing is worth your peace of mind. Peace is the foundation of health. Without it, you are just a well-fed nervous wreck. What if the most powerful medicine in your cabinet isn't a pill, but a plant that grows in the cracks of the sidewalk? In image 16, we see the jars of the old world. My grandmother was a healer, and she didn't have a degree. She had an intuition. She knew that nature provides the antidote for every ailment it creates. Today, we have pill for every ill, but we've lost the root for every route. I don't shun modern medicine. It's kept me going through a few scrapes, but I don't rely on it to keep me alive. I rely on the bitter herbs, the dandelion greens, and the garlic. These things don't just fix a symptom, they talk to the immune system. They remind it how to do its job. A century of life has taught me that the body doesn't need to be managed, it needs to be supported. We have become over-medicated and undernourished, not just in our stomachs, but in our cells. Look at the glowing blue line in image 17, the vagus nerve. This is the highway of calm that connects your brain to your gut. I call it the soul string. When you are anxious, this string is tight, and your whole body plays a discordant tune. When you breathe deeply, as I have practiced for 80 years, you are plucking this string and sending a wave of relaxation through every organ. At 105, my secret is that I never let my vagus nerve stay tight for more than a few minutes. I use vagal toning, humming, cold water on the face, and long, slow exhales. It sounds too simple to be true, doesn't it? But that is the tragedy of your era. You think simple things can't be powerful. You think you need a complex solution for a simple problem. The problem is tension, and the solution is toning. The table in image 18 is where the real blue zone magic happens. Notice there are no phones on that table. There is no TV in the background. There is only the breaking of bread. When you eat with people you love, your body produces oxytocin, the cuddle hormone. Oxytocin is a direct antagonist to cortisol. It literally mends the micro tears in your arteries. I have eaten my fair share of lard and butter in my time, but I always ate it with friends. I believe a lonely salad is more dangerous to your heart than a communal feast. We have become a grab-and-go society, and we are paying for it with our lifespans. My advice: never eat alone if you can help it. And if you must eat alone, eat in a state of gratitude, not in front of a screen. We see the blue light of dawn. Most people wake up to an alarm, a controlled heart attack that yanks them out of sleep. They immediately check their phones, flooding their brains with the world's problems before they've even blinked. I haven't used an alarm clock since 1965. I let the sun wake me. I spend my first 30 minutes in bed just being. I feel my toes, I feel my fingers, and I thank them for another day of service. I don't let the world in until I am firmly grounded in my own body. Sleep is not just downtime, it is repair time. If you truncate that repair time with artificial noise, you are leaving the job half finished. To live to 100, you must treat your sleep like a sacred temple, not a nuisance. Shows a journal entry. I forgive them. This is perhaps the most difficult health protocol I've ever followed. Grudges are a form of biological debt. They require energy to maintain. They keep your muscles tight and your jaw clenched. I've lived long enough to be betrayed, to be hurt, and to lose a great deal. If I had carried that anger, I would have died in my 80s from a stroke. I chose to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry their trash in my temple. At 105, my heart is light because it is empty of resentment. If you want to live long, you must travel light. Drop the old arguments. They are heavy, and your long walk is easier without them. The tide comes in, and the tide goes out. It never misses a beat, yet it never seems to be in a hurry. Walking on sand is one of the greatest gifts you can give your aging frame. It forces those tiny stabilizer muscles in your ankles and hips to communicate with your brain. At 105, my balance is better than most 70-year-olds because I never stopped challenging my proprioception. I don't walk on flat, paved concrete all day. That's a recipe for atrophy. I walk on uneven ground. I walk through grass, and I walk where the earth meets the water. The negative ions from the crashing waves aren't just a hippie theory. They are a literal electrical charge that resets your cellular polarity. We are electrical beings, after all. If you spend your whole life insulated by rubber-soled shoes and carpeted floors, you lose your connection to the Earth's natural frequency. I make it a point to let the Earth charge my battery every single day. We see the mitochondria. These are the ancient bacteria that live inside us, providing the ADP, the currency of life. Scientists tell me that as we age, these power plants become leaky and inefficient. But I believe they respond to the load we give them. If you treat your body like a museum piece, your mitochondria go into hibernation. If you give them a reason to work, not a frantic, stressful reason, but a purposeful one, they stay vibrant. I take cold plunges before it was a trend. I splash my face with ice water every morning. I take short, brisk walks in the winter air. These hormetic stresses tell my mitochondria, we are still in the game. Don't shut down yet. You don't need expensive NAD+ injections if you simply learn to embrace a little bit of discomfort. Comfort is the greatest killer of the centenarian spirit. Represents the soundtrack of a long life. I grew up with the crackle of the airwaves, not the ping of a digital notification. There is a specific frequency to old music, the 432 Hz of nature versus the 440 Hz of modern industrial sound. I fill my home with music that has a soul. I've watched how noise pollution affects the elderly. Constant traffic, the hum of the refrigerator, the drone of the television. These things create a state of hypervigilance in the brain. At 105, I protect my ears. I seek out the lo-fi sounds, the wind in the eaves, the crackle of a fire, the sound of a page turning. These sounds tell the nervous system that the world is safe. If your world sounds like a construction site, your body will feel like a disaster zone. Turn off the noise and let your cells hear the silence. A single drop falling. That is the essence of fluid dynamics, the same dynamics that govern your blood. Most people's blood is sludge by the time they hit 80. It's thick with sugar, heavy with fats, and slowed by dehydration. I have kept my blood like that raindrops, clear and fast-moving. How? By respecting the water of life. I don't drink beverages, I drink water. I don't hydrate because a doctor told me to. I do it because I want my blood to be a mountain stream, not a stagnant pond. When your blood flows easily, your heart doesn't have to work as hard. I've saved my heart millions of beats over the last century simply by keeping my internal plumbing clear of the gunk of modern processed living. Your heart has a finite number of beats. Don't waste them pushing sludge. Shows a truth that the multi-billion-dollar diet industry wants to hide. It's not about superfoods, it's about balance. I see people today swinging from one extreme to another. All meat, no meat. All fat, no fat. It's exhausting just to watch. I have spent 105 years eating from the middle of the road. I eat what grows nearby. I eat when the sun is up, and I stop before I am full. I've found that the secret isn't a specific vegetable. It's the absence of the toxic load. My body doesn't have to spend all its energy detoxifying chemicals from a box. It spends its energy on repair. Longevity is simply the net gain of repair over damage. If you stop damaging yourself with food-like substances, the repair happens automatically. It's a natural law. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I am living proof that the dog just needs a better reason to learn. I am currently learning a new language. Why? Not because I'll ever visit the country, but because the effort of learning creates new neural pathways. It's called cognitive reserve. I'm building a buffer so that even if a few books in my library catch fire, the library stays open. Most people retire their brains the moment they stop working. They switch to passive consumption, watching others live on a screen. That is a death sentence for the mind. If you want to keep your marbles, you have to keep playing the game. Read the difficult books. Write your memoirs. Argue with a friend about philosophy. Keep the gears turning. When you are 105, you live in the golden hour of your existence. There is a peace that comes when you stop trying to get somewhere. I have no more career to build, no more children to raise, no more legacy to worry about. I am free, and in that freedom, my health has found its final, most resilient form. Scientists call it the grandmother hypothesis, the idea that nature keeps us around because we provide value to the tribe. I believe I am still here because I am a repository of calm for those around me. When you live for others, your body finds a reason to keep the lights on. Survival is a team sport. If you only live for yourself, the flame burns out quickly. Live for the sunset, and you'll find the sunrise follows. Holding a hand. There is more healing in a 30-second hug than in a month's supply of vitamins. At my age, skin hunger is a real thing. We need the tactile sensation of being connected to the world. I make it a point to shake hands, to hug my grandchildren, and to feel the texture of the world around me. This sensory input keeps the brain-body connection hot. When you withdraw into your own head, the wires start to fray. I have kept my wiring intact by remaining a physical participant in the world. Don't hide behind a screen. Go where the people are. Touch the world, and let the world touch you. It is the ultimate anti-aging serum. At 105, I don't have brain fog. I have a clarity that I didn't possess at 30. Back then, my mind was full of clutter, worries about money, status, and what people thought of my shoes. Now, the clutter is gone. My mind is like a still lake. When the water is still, you can see all the way to the bottom. This mental clarity has a profound effect on the physical body. It means I notice the small signals of my body before they become loud problems. I feel a twinge, and I know to rest. I feel a thirst, and I know to drink. Most people are so noisy in their heads that they don't hear their body screaming for help until it's too late. Listen to the whisper, and you'll never have to hear the scream. I am walking into its fullest expression. Being 105 is not a burden. It is a privilege that few get to experience. My secret to living this long wasn't a diet, a pill, or an exercise routine. It was a refusal to let the world harden me. I stayed soft. I stayed curious. I stayed grateful. If you want to see 100, start today. Not by changing your grocery list, but by changing your internal atmosphere. Forgive the person you hate. Breathe out the stress you're holding. Put down the phone and look at the trees. Life is waiting for you to join it. I've been waiting for you here for 105 years. It's a beautiful day. Won't you stay a while?